welcome into Steelers Now post game. I am Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders at what is it, Alan? Empower Field at Mile High Stadium. Is that the full name of the stadium there?
We can just call it Mile High. It's fine.
Yeah. Why?
It also is the best stadium in the NFL when said in a Yinzer accent. Mile High.
Empire. In Empower.
Mile High. Yeah. Empire at Mile High. There you go.
That's true. I wasn't thinking about that. Honestly, now I do like the name of it. We already had a few people in here that were kind of waiting for us. Ben, Trevin, and Logan already in the comments. But Alan, first things first that I want to ask you about. I believe you said this was your first time there covering a game, or no?
Yes. First time in Denver at all. I mean, okay. I flew in and out of the airport once or twice, but first time I actually spent any time in Denver. Yeah.
What did we make of the venue and just the scenic?
Fairly cool stadium, fairly convenient to the city. It's around, so I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Okay. And what did we make of the turnout of Steelers fans, at least as opposed to last week? Weren't sure what to expect.
I mean, nothing like last week. That's for sure. That never happens. As far as like, there were a lot of Steelers fans here, but a fairly normal amount for a road game.
Okay, fair enough. Just some housekeeping stuff I want to get to from Tomlin before we dive into this. Mike Tomlin said Michael Pruitt has a knee injury that he's being assessed, and Tyler Medikevich has a hamstring injury that is being assessed as well. That one I kind of knew about. I didn't even notice the Pruitt thing happen until I just saw this post from Mike DeFabo.
I didn't either. So interesting. Medikevich, I don't know. He came flying down the field so hard, he hit Mims at about 45 miles an hour. I don't know how you get a hamstring out of that. That's interesting. But I think he ended up returning, didn't he? I thought he was back on the field after that.
Okay. Well, I was going to bring up, he didn't bring up Dante Jackson, who had to come out of the game 2 different occasions. I guess it's good that I haven't seen his name post game yet.
Yeah, I talked to Dante, and he said it was just the altitude was getting to him. He couldn't catch his breath.
Oh,
and and he had a cramp. I think it was in the first half when he went out. And the second time, he just I couldn't catch my breath. A lot of guys said as the game went on, the altitude really got difficult for him. I think that's a big part of the reason that you didn't see this team really put its foot down in the fourth quarter against was pretty clearly an overmatched opponent. Because even like guys that I think are in, like TJ Watt was saying, like, man, I was gassed. Like I was tapping out way earlier than I ever remember myself tapping out in drives. I believe the direct quote was, "I'm so glad we don't have to play here again for a long time." So, yeah. I mean, if even TJ Watt is like, this place is rough, then I think it's certainly a real thing.
Somebody already bringing up. They know that you'll love this. Omar's burner. Wanted to bring to Alan's attention. I've seen a lot of comments online already saying, why can't Broderick move back to his natural position? Was dying laughing reading those. I think that's a big storyline coming out of this, Alan, as we went into it. Shortly before kickoff, it was an hour or so, it was put out there that they were going to rotate at the right tackle spot, Troy Fautanu and Broderick Jones, which we can get your take on that just in general. But that didn't last very long because of the way that Broderick Jones' turn in that rotation went.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a bad idea. I'm not really, in general, in favor of rotating offensive linemen. And if I was going to do it, it would be like it would be almost the opposite way, right? Where it's like, hey, we want to find 1 or 2 low intensity possessions to get a younger guy a little bit of work, right? Like if that's how you want to do the rotation, if let's say Isaac Seumalo was, instead of out for a month, like just banged up and only operating at 75%, he was still playing. And the Steelers were like, hey, let's try to give him a couple series off and get Spencer Anderson out there. He had a great camp. Let's see how he looked. I think you can manage that kind of rotation. This kind of rotation, I don't understand. Like they knew Broderick Jones isn't at 100%. They know that he's been struggling. If you're making the decision to go with Fautanu, just go with them. I don't really understand the logic behind the rotation, and I don't think it's really surprising that it didn't go well. I mean, Jones has been struggling. Anybody who's seen it has known. I think they need to let him get healthy. I think they need to, take a step back and see. I mean, natural position is a fallacy. We've talked about that a lot. But I think, Broderick Jones is a player whose build suggests he ought to be able to play left tackle. I don't think his play to this point has lived up to that potential. He's going to have to be better than he's been to be a left tackle. So I don't know. I would kind of, after this mess, really, I would kind of reset things for him, put him back on the left in practice, give him a couple weeks, see if he gets better. I don't know. I mean, it's going to end up being a lost season for him. If this is not an injury that is going to get better over the course of the season, I don't know what else to do with him. I mean, I don't think he's better than Dan Moore, and I don't think he's better than Troy Fautanu right now. And I like Broderick, and I think he's a very good prospect, and I still have a lot of high hopes for him in the future. But right now, this is a football team that's winning games, and the future can't matter more than the present.
Right, absolutely. Ryan actually has an idea for Broderick Jones going forward. Needs to move to guard, play in a phone booth, not expose him on the edge.
I mean, maybe, but if you traded up to 14 overall to take a guard in the first round?
14. Yeah.
Yeesh. No, I mean, look, I think Broderick Jones is fine. I think he just is not healthy and not play and was not able to work on the things that he really needed to work on. I think the other thing is, like, a lot of people have it in their head that, like, he was really good last year, and he was pretty mediocre in pass protection. He was a good run blocker. Like, there were big pass protection issues last year too that he needed to work on, and this injury really took away his training camp in terms of improvement. And so I don't know. It would not totally surprise me if we don't see Broderick Jones much the rest of this year. Like, I think it's not looking promising at the current moment. But I don't think that really, I mean, outside of introducing a good deal of uncertainty about letting Dan Moore walk and what happens in 2025, like, I don't really know what else you want the Steelers to do at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know. I don't know what the path forward is going to be for them. I think it's going to be a very interesting week of practice if we do see him still kind of going back and forth. But I would also, like, I think it'd be very telling if you just see him getting a lot of reps on the left side. Alan, that was obviously, like I said, a big storyline coming out of this game, but let's kind of dive more into the game itself, the big picture stuff, what your main takeaways were from it.
Yeah, man, I thought this was an offense that looked pretty good in the first half, and then I think they just literally took their foot off the gas pedal. I mean, I think and I don't know how much that was guys getting tired. I don't know how much that was the Broncos adjusting to what they did, and I don't know how much that was Arthur Smith watching the Steelers defense and just saying, as long as we don't turn the ball over, they cannot possibly beat us. And, like, I think there's something to that. I don't think the Steelers care about scoring points. I think they care about winning. And I was talking to James Daniels after the game, and I asked him what happened in the second half. He's like, honestly, I'm not sure. Like, we're going to have to go figure it out. But the one thing he brought up was, like, look, we just went on the road in 2 venues with our backup quarterback and had 3 players make their NFL debut on the offensive line. We did not turn the ball over, and we went 2-0. Like, I don't care how many – we could have scored 6 points, and that would have been an acceptable result if we went 2-0. And, like, look, this is a mixed up, weird – like, not the quarterback they plan to have, very young on the offensive line. Like, we said this offense was going to struggle at the start of this season for 3 months, and they're struggling. There's no question. But they're doing enough to win games, and I don't think – they want to jeopardize the winning part just so they can make people feel satisfied because they scored a lot of points on offense. What did Mike Tomlin say in his press conference last? I'm not here to comfort you, something like that. Like, I don't think they're looking for it. I think they're looking for a win. If they get to a place where they need those points, they'll try to see if they're there then. But if Denver looks like it could play for 3 weeks against this defense and never score a touchdown, then probably don't need to do too much more than what you're doing on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting context to add to it for sure. It's an interesting perspective that James has on it. And, we know that there's a lot of moving pieces on the offenses, and this is very well how they could get out of the gate. I mean, we said as much on there. Like, this goes all the way back to when the schedule first came out, and there were a ton of people complaining about, the gauntlet that they have on the back half. I was looking at it as a blessing because hopefully by then there is more continuity in the offense and they're gelling, at least more than where they're at right now. So, we've kind of been talking about this for a long time and been prepared for them to be slow out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, I did not think slow out of the gate was going to mean 2-0. I'll be perfectly honest. I did not. And certainly did not think that slow out of the gate would mean 2-0 and 2 games ahead of Cincinnati and Baltimore. How about that?
Absolutely. Yancey says finally a Mount Washington red zone sighting. So, I was right in looking at the tight ends, but this was not the one that I had scoring a touchdown in this one.
Yeah, I had Justin Fields responsible for 3 touchdowns. I just didn't have the 2 penalties calling 2 of them back. That was the error in my prediction. They actually ran that play in practice this week, and the catch and throw in practice was actually even more impressive than the one on the field. And in the locker room afterwards, Van Jefferson was telling Justin, it's like, I knew you were going to throw that to him because the one in practice was so nasty. But like, I knew you were going right back to it. And he did, and it looked good again. And I think, like, right now, Darnell Washington's position is not really tight end. It's like tackle insurance. But if you can use him in the red zone, I think that is a serious weapon for this team. I don't think they're going to be a bad red zone team. I think they might be the kind of team that has trouble getting to the red zone regularly, but I don't think this offense is going to have consistent struggles in the red zone.
You brought up the penalties there. So what did you make of the officiating?
Over officious? I don't know. I didn't think there like too many of the calls were like egregiously bad. There's too many penalties. Like I don't know what you have to do to set a different standard, but I didn't think that there was like a call that stands out to me, at least not that's coming to the top of my head. That was like, oh my gosh, that's so bad. How could they? I just thought there were a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's bad. It's from a fan perspective, like you'd be frustrated if they didn't call some of them, obviously, if they're going against your team or would be going against your team. But like, yeah, you're not tuning in to watch a bunch of flags. So like I'm kind of in the same boat. Like
it's weird because it gets to the point where like if you're calling so much, then when you don't call one that I actually don't want called, but is just as bad as something else that already got called in that game.
Right, yeah.
Now I'm like, well, you have to throw that one too, right? You've already set the standard. But but I'm saying like I don't want any of those to be penalties. I have way too many holding calls. I mean, the one call on Broderick Jones, I mean, that's fine, you can call it, but like I don't need that to be called in my life. I'm okay with that getting let go. I thought the big ones, the OPI against Van, I thought was legit. You can't put your arms out like that. I thought they got the personal foul against Calvin Wright. So I thought the kind of like super game changing call, the Broderick one, I mean, it fit within the rest of the holds they called in the game. I don't really like it, but I can't say it was a bad call. Like I just think the ones that were super impactful in the game, I thought were meted out pretty fairly. I just not a fan of that style of officiating.
Oh, we got to talk about this too, because either people don't know or they don't care or they don't remember. But when TJ Watt goes for a rip move, how many people are still going to post screenshots, like still shots of it, saying that he's being held on the play?
This is going to be an episode of Steelers Morning Rush this week.
Okay. All right, good.
You cannot be called for a hold on a rip move. If the defender puts his head there, you can do whatever the heck you want to him after he does. It's never holding, unless you take him to the ground. That's it. As long as he stays on his 2 feet, you can do whatever you want. You can choke him. Doesn't matter. You can choke him with 2 fistfuls of jerseys.
I'm glad you're dedicating a morning rush to it. We don't have to talk too much about it then. I still see it so often with people talking about it. I'm like, what are we doing? Ben said he was expecting more middle of the field today. We talked a lot about, obviously, them being intentional about it last week, avoiding Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons. Denver does not have those guys, but yet we still didn't see that really come to fruition.
I'd have to go back and look at why that was. I didn't. It's weird because Justin Fields had a pretty good game, I think, um, but I didn't think his decision making was always the best. I have a very different angle than the TV angle does. I can
Mhm.
see like who's open where and who's not, and I thought there
Yeah.
was like a weird hesitancy on him, where like there were some like 3 to 5 yard over the middle throws that were there that he didn't take. And like sometimes he didn't take him, and then it worked out. He ran, or he found another guy. Like the play where the Pickens that ends up coming back. Like there's an open receiver. I think it was Farmouth. There's an open receiver in the middle of the field if he throws the ball right away. Instead, he like runs away. The holding penalty flag is down. Then he throws this ball into Pickens. It's like I think there's a little bit of like taking some easy ones there that they could certainly use. I thought his throwing was outstanding, almost perfect. The decision making was still, I think, a little iffy, but he took care of the football and he did enough to win. And I think they're going to take that for now.
Yeah, second straight game without turning the football over. For me, like really hard to evaluate the second half that he did just because there were so many penalties. And it was just like
He didn't even
it
throw it.
was
Like it was
yeah,
like
like
I had his. I'm writing the game story. You put in the stats wherever you're writing, and then you say I'm going to go back and update them. And like
mhm.
I wrote the game story in the third quarter, and when I went to it was like, oh, just add 2 more pass attempts. Like there's just no more throwing. Like they got very conservative for sure.
Sean says small thing, but JPJ needs to start trying to match his gloves with the opposing team's jerseys. Obviously very physical, handsy, but doesn't help that he wears the gold gloves against white jerseys. I think somebody pointed that
I
out. I think it was
saw
DB or somebody pointed that out
somebody
already.
pointed that out last year, and he kind of brushed
Mhm.
it off. But I saw in the fourth quarter a set of gold gloves go flying across the sideline. So I wonder. I wonder.
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pay attention to that. So next week will be the Chargers at for sure. Assume it'll be them wearing
In
white. We'll
white,
see if he's wearing. Yeah, we'll see what gloves he's wearing. Ben said, "Do you think they're saving some of the screen game for when they face teams with better pass rush?"
I think the screen game is a couple things. Yeah, you need a team who actually has a pass rusher. Like next week, like you want to screen Bosa, right? Like there's nobody on this team that you're like, oh my gosh, we got to slow him down. I'm not sure that uh, with like Fields is the greatest screen thrower of all time. Like they ran one, the Najee, it wasn't a screen. Well, it might have been. I don't know if there was a screen block or not, but it was like that little swing. Najee should have caught it, but it was like at his knees. There was the one last week that again Najee dropped that was behind him. That's not necessarily his best ball. I'm not
Mhm.
sure that's there's like a famous clip of him in Chicago trying to throw a screen where like he gets swallowed by like 5 guys because he just stands there flat footed and doesn't move his feet and like just never gets rid of the ball. I don't know. I just don't. He's good at a lot of things. I'm not sure that's really one of them that is like at the top of his skill set. So I think the screens might have been more of a rust thing, especially like teams can't really pin their ears back against Justin anyway. They have to stay in their rush lanes or he's going to make them pay himself. Like they have like a built-in slow down the rusher with a quarterback that runs really well. You don't really need to go to the screen game as much with him. I think that was more of a rust thing.
Garrett said Fields has a tendency that grew with the Bears when where he's always looking for the big play, doesn't hit the easy ones, and that's what I've seen so far.
I think that's somewhat fair. I'm not sure if it's like I'm not sure I'm willing to. I see the same thing you're seeing, Garrett. I'm just not sure that it's born out of always looking for a big play as much as it is not seeing the open guy and making the decision to throw it quickly enough. Like I don't think he's turning them down as much as like it's taking him too long to get to and find that open guy and pull the
Mhm.
trigger. And so then he moves on because now it's taken to you know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
there's certainly what you're seeing there is happening. I'm just not sure I'm willing to attribute it to always searching for the big play, especially because I've seen him do it in practice where like the big play doesn't matter in practice, right? Like you just want a
Yeah.
completion. And I've seen some of the same stuff. So I'm not. I'm seeing that. I'm just not sure that's exactly what the root cause is.
Alan, obviously the offense is the side of the football where we're going to have a lot of focus because that's the side that we are more concerned about, and then we're just going to be kind of following the progression. But I feel like we got to talk about the defensive performance in this game as well. They gave up 6 points to Denver. Yeah, that was actually about, what did we say the over/under should be set at against Denver? Didn't we say so
I
somewhere in
think
this
we
range?
said 4.
Yeah, that second field goal that they decided to take to make a two-score game was really the difference in it being the over on what we set it at. But anyways, what did you take
Wait,
away from
wait.
the
Before we
defensive?
talk about the defense, can we talk about how
Yeah,
terrible of a job Sean Payton did in this
I
game?
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Like,
please go ahead.
what was he doing? The 4th and 6, he goes for it, gets it. Then another 4th and 6, kicks a field goal to make a two-score game. Then after they kick the second field goal with a minute 50 some left, which I think is a defensible decision, but you have to kick the onside kick then. What are you doing? I just mind-boggling stuff there.
Yeah, true. Honestly, my mind was stuck on the second field goal, but you're right as well. Like with the onside kick, like the best shot that you have is getting the ball back, no timeouts, 20 seconds left.
Yeah, I just don't understand that.
So, anyways, but yeah, I wanted to get your takes on what you saw from the Steelers defensively against Bo Nix and that Denver offense. The one thing I wanted to bring up before you go too far into this, because we have different perspectives, obviously, you covering the team and me being a fan, but I think one thing that we can agree on is it was pretty damn cool to see Corey Trice get an interception.
I thought Corey Trice played pretty well. In addition to having the interception, we get Dante Jackson missed a couple reps. And he went in there. He thought he also played well on the dime. That was nice to see. I just think, really Denver got the one big play on the I don't know, whatever you want to call it, Wildcat reverse pass. But other than that,
Yeah.
it was fourth quarter with up 2 scores and they were throwing checkdowns and collecting yardage. But I never really felt like this Denver team was in real danger of doing very much throughout this game. Felt like the defense had this almost completely in control. Look at the rushing totals. I mean, 17 yards on 11 carries. Like that's just that's domination. And I never thought Knicks looked even remotely comfortable in the pocket. They got to him twice, but I feel like there were plenty of others where they just scared him into making a bad pass or a bad decision, and that works just as well. And then they get the interceptions.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like this is something that I'm going to go back, obviously, and watch this. But in real time, I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I felt like we both came into this thinking that they were going to be able to make Bo Nix look very uncomfortable. I actually probably would have set the over on the sacks higher than 2. They only actually sacked him twice, but he looked very uncomfortable pretty much every time that he actually dropped back. So, very dominant performance from the defensive side for sure.
Yeah,
Please keep
and
the
I don't
questions coming, by the way.
I don't think there's anything to think about this defensive performance through 2 weeks that to me is not going to hold up. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta, new quarterback, not playing that well. Denver, this team's terrible. But I don't see this defense struggling with anything really as they go forward. I think they're that good.
Have you watched the Chargers at all, like to scout them or look at them on tape or anything like that up to this point?
Not enough to have a strong opinion about them. No, I'll have to do some of that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
they
mean,
played pretty
we'll do
well
that
today.
throughout the week. We'll do that throughout the week anyway. I was just curious if you had any early thoughts on what they could present in terms of a challenge. But obviously, they have Justin Herbert at quarterback, who's a pretty dynamic player. But the question's really been about the skill players outside of him with the losses that they've had. But anyways, still focusing on this game. Somebody pointed out the special teams, and I actually posted about it as well. Corliss Waitman was booming them today for sure. There was obviously a couple that he would have had to not have go into the end zone, but I thought that they at least took a step forward in their coverage of kicks this week. I'm not saying it was spectacular by any means, but Skowronek late in the game had a really nice punt coverage as well. What did you make of the special teams aspect of this game?
I thought they played their best punt coverage of the year. Man, they get a couple. I mean, Skowronek standing on the goal line, and the punt is so high with so much hang time that it bounces over his head into the end zone. They were really close to having a a number of punts down. I think Waitman's pretty good. I think their punt coverage has gotten better. I think Skoranek has to stay up. He's got one more week where he can come up from the practice squad. I'd keep bringing him up. Brandon Johnson was here, interestingly enough, traveled with the team. Not all the guys on the practice squad do. So I think he wasn't far off either. I don't know. And then you got Roman Wilson, who I expect to come back next week. So we'll see how they manage that part of it. But I think the punt coverage was pretty good. Jalen Warren bobbled the kickoff. You don't want to see that. Couple penalties. Nick Herbig had a penalty. But I didn't have a problem with the Steelers special teams today.
Which is about as good of a thing as you can say about Steelers special teams, it seems like, over the last few years, other than Miles Killebrew blocking one seemingly every other week. Almost had one today.
He almost got one. Yeah, it was really close.
Yeah. Matt said, let's talk about GP cooking PS2. Yeah, I posted this as well. This is going to be something else that's like you have to go back and watch on tape to appreciate. But George Pickens might have had the best game that I've ever seen for a guy that had 2 catches for 29 yards in the box score.
I mean, the saddest part about Van Jefferson's penalty is that George Pickens was going to be 8 yards open no matter what. He didn't even need the pick. Like, he was dominant, I thought, in terms of the one-on-one matchup. I thought the Steelers did a good job of moving him around with someone on the inside a lot. I'm not sure how they didn't get him the ball more, to be perfectly honest.
I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like in real time, it was pretty obvious that he was getting the better of Patrick Surtain, as crazy as that is to say, in this game, for sure in the first half. But I'll have to go back and watch and see what exactly was going on in that second half, because, again, I feel like the penalties were kind of just convoluting everything about the offense. Like, it's hard to evaluate anything that was happening on that side of the football in the second half.
Well, you're pretty clearly trying to just run the ball and move the chains at that point. Like, so penalties really make it hard to stay on schedule and do that.
Yep, absolutely. Pickens was the water this game with big plays. There you go. Going back to last week with the game that TJ Watt could have had, that was called back because of some penalties. George Pickens was the offensive side of that. And Kevin says he can't be guarded. Yeah, Pat Surtain is, I mean, to me, the number one corner in the league. And like I said, I thought he was getting the better of that matchup, at least when the Steelers were trying to throw the football. I thought he was winning that matchup quite a bit. So, Alan, any other takeaways from this game that stand out to you that we even touched on?
Man, Cam Hayward still looks pretty good. Larry Ogunjobi was really fast out there. I thought Keone Benton was good. I think that defensive line keeps impressing me. I thought Najee Harris ran really hard. He didn't have one that like really popped off, but I thought like down in and down out, he was doing a lot of work to get tough yards. And man, I like get that play to George, and it's 1st and goal at the 6. I'm thinking, okay, here's a couple Najee runs up the middle, and it's in. I thought he was really good.
Ben said, where do you evaluate Patrick Queen's play through 2 weeks?
It was good. Had the pass breakup on 4th down today. He overran like a bubble screen. And Minka did too, actually. That must have been like a tendency breaker for Denver. You very rarely see Minka going the wrong way. So that, to me, like that one must have been like hey, that's 100%, or they only ever do it this way on film. And then they came out and did it a different way. Yeah. I didn't think, Queen, obviously, I mean, the 4th down pass breakup was really nice play, but I haven't seen him make any like splash or anything, but I think he's been fine.
Yeah.
He was playing the dime, which I was a little surprised by, and I thought the dime package was really good today. I'd have to check, like, did Denver convert a 3rd and long? Maybe one. It could have been many.
Maybe on a penalty.
Well, yeah, everything happened on penalties in this game. But,
yeah, I don't know. I don't recall a 3rd and long conversion like actually happening with a play that they made. On 3rd down in general, they were that was the Steelers. They were 2 for 12 on 3rd down.
2 for 12.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I'm not criticizing too many people on the defense that goes 10 of 12 on 3rd down.
Right. Real quick hitters here before we get out of here. Garrett said, was Cordell Patterson playing gunner? I didn't notice this if he was.
I did not
Definitely
notice.
Ben Skowronek. Yeah, I'd have to go back and see. And then somebody brought up Deshaun Elliott, and I feel like we got to bring up Deshaun Elliott. I mean, he said, I think Deshaun Elliott might be the most underrated signing of the entire offseason. Man, he's been so good. Yeah, through 2 games, he's been awesome.
He's been really good. That TFL today was a monster. I think he's been such a great addition to this defense. Him and Jackson and Queen, they all fit together really nicely.
Do you think Edmonds will continue to be a game day inactive unless an injury happens, or do you think it's just because he just got back in the mix?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who you would set down to get him active. Maybe Rush, but if he's covering kicks, I don't know. See how things shake out. I don't really have a strong sense on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm interested to see how that happens. All right. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. We tried to keep these around 30 minutes. We'll be back tomorrow, obviously, for an afternoon drive, morning rush with Alan as well on a Monday morning. Alan, tell the people they can find you until then.
That morning rush, I'm flying a red eye through Philly to land in Pittsburgh at 9. So we will be recording the morning rush in my drive from the airport after flying through the night home from Denver. I'm not promising the world's best show. I'm just saying that.
And hey, this is why we try to keep these at about a half hour so we can get Alan on his way out of the stadium here. But yeah, that's I'll definitely be watching that one just to see how the body language and stuff looks at the very least. I can't listen to that one. I got to be able to watch it just to see what's going on as well.
There you go.
But yeah, tell people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH, PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. And like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our stuff from another week of Steelers coverage leading up to the home opener.
There we go. And I'm very much looking forward to that. You can also find all the podcasts everywhere as well. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell over there. Leave us a 5-star review over there if you're listening somewhere else. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Go follow us on TikTok, posting 90-second clips of the shows over there as well. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. This has been Steelers Now Postgame. We'll talk to you next time.